Good afternoon everyone. I don't know about you, but we had a very restless night last night and got little sleep at all. But we were still up early in the morning and tuned in to the Home Service for the morning news to hear Mr. Attlee, the Prime Minister, had given a statement at midnight last night that the war was finally over. After so many days of false alarm, since the use of that new atomic bomb, I'm sure you are as relieved as we are that the Japanese have finally surrendered. Our poor neighbour next door, he'd already set off to work without knowing anything of this, and like many others had to return again when they heard the news of the 2-day national holiday that Mr. Attlee has decided to give us today on August the 15th and tomorrow August the 16th. So little notice though. Many people have said they were peeved at this because of course we've all had to rush off to the shops before they closed. Now my market town was quieter than I expected, with just a few flags having been erected. The chief occupation though of everyone seemed to be queuing mainly for bread or fireworks, and although we managed to purchase some rations, bread had sold out and we came home empty-handed. Now if this happened to you too, don't be downhearted. Bread may be the mainstay of partying and holiday food, but a delicious loaf can easily and quickly be made here at home. The Ministry of Food give a couple of suggestions for making your own yeast at home to use in bread making, and I'll talk about that in a few days' time. But at times like this, without any warning, without any notice, we don't have the time to prepare that homemade yeast. So today I will be making do with soda as a raising agent instead. The Ministry of Food have been doing lots of tests on the nutrients and nourishment of food, and we now know that the damage that soda can do to vitamin levels in cooking both vegetables and bread. Wheatmeal flour, for instance, is full of vitamin B, and that's why it's so very good for you. But unfortunately, using soda in this bread will kill off any of the vitamin B. That's why the use of yeast in your bread making is really always recommended, and that you only use soda in an emergency like today. Now, first of all, I'm going to weigh out 12 ounces of our national wheatmeal flour. Of course, this is the flour that our national loaf is made from. Much better for the family than the white bread and the white flour that we've been used to before the war. But there are a few hints of how to use your national flour as best you can in your kitchen, because although it is very good for us and full of nutrients and extra vitamins, it does need a little different treatment to our white flour, as it's a little denser and can be thirstier. So the first thing we need to ensure is that we do give it a really good sifting. I'm also going to pop in a teaspoon of cream of tartar and a teaspoon of course, our bicarbonate of soda, our soda as the raising agent in our homemade quick bread, and a teaspoon of salt as well. Now, I'm very lucky, as just before the war, my American chum came over to visit me, and being a cook, she knew I would love anything to do with my kitchen, and she brought me this wonderful sifter. over from America, and so glad am I that she did, because as you know, ladies, trying to get any new kitchen equipment, especially that made of metal in these present times, is almost impossible, as of course we've had to turn all of the metalwork into our war effort instead. Us ladies can do without. The Ministry of Food have a very good Ready Reckoner sheet that will help you if you do find that your scales stop working. Send out for that, and that will help. It will show you how, by putting the leaflets, cutting out and sticking it on a jam jar, it will give you alternative measures so that you can still get the correct ingredients in your recipes. Now, I've mixed my dry ingredients together. Of course, these you will have in your cupboard, in your larder, in your pantry to hand. So that's why this bread is very easy to make in your kitchens at home. I'm now going to add liquid. Now, instead of just water or milk and water as we would use in bread, I'm going to add a little bit of sweetness in the form of a dessert spoon of golden syrup. And of course, in this heat, the syrup is very easy to work with today. Now, I'm going to add first of all about a couple of spoonfuls of milk and water, just to mix that golden syrup to make the liquid a little thinner and easy to use. And of course, this is the time when you can be using excuse me, your bottle rinsings. When you're rinsing your milk bottles out to return to the milkman, never throw the rinsing water away, because of course you can use that in your cooking. I've just added a little more to thin it out, and I'm now pouring that into my dry ingredient. Mix in and then add more milk and water or more bottle rinsing until you end up with a good stiff dough, like any other bread dough that you may make at home. I'm now going to use a little bit of water with a spot more milk and see how that turns out, whether we've got enough or not. Perhaps a drop more water. And now you can put your hands in and mix the dough with your hand, and then turn out onto a floured board. Just a little bit more. I'm just going to damp my hand, otherwise I'll make it too wet and sticky, and we don't want that. Now, make sure your board is well floured and knead. And then very simply, all we need to do with this dough is to pop it on to a greased baking sheet and pop it into a quick oven until it's done. Now that will probably take about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on your oven and how hot it cooks. Now I'm going to use, of course, my wrappings from my margarine ration to grease the tray, and then shape your dough. Pop it into the oven as soon as you can, because it will start rising straight away. You can either shape it into an oval or a circle. I'm going to make mine more of an oval because I find it's better for cutting. So press it down, pop that in the tray, and then it's straight in the oven with that. Now if you're in the lucky position of having some stale bread in your kitchen left over from a day or two ago, don't send it to the pig bin. Now you can always refresh stale bread very easily. Pop it into a bowl of water, turn it over. We don't want to leave this too long, otherwise it will become very soggy as if we're making a bread pudding. But just give it a little sort of rinse and a squeeze, shake out any excess water, and then we're going to pop that onto a baking tray and into the oven just for a couple of minutes, just to evaporate the water, and your bread will be delicious and taste much fresher again. Now in town this morning we saw soldiers breaking up the street defences, and there were many guides and Boy Scouts going around asking for some scrap wood, because it's all going to be put on a big bonfire for this evening on top of Beacon Hill. I wonder if there'll be any dancing till 2 AM in the morning again, like there was on VE Day in May. Well, that jitterbugging, well, it's clearly a dance for the young. It seems to me to be a sort of wrestling to rhythm. I don't know, it certainly isn't for me. Now, are you having a party to celebrate? Because if you are, you may find that you end up with some rather shrivelled, dried up sandwiches, especially now the afternoon has turned out fine and sunny. Well, don't waste them, put them aside, because you can always use your dried up sandwiches as either a pudding, if they're a sweet sandwich, perhaps jam, or as a supper snack if they were perhaps a meat paste sandwich. All you simply have to do is to pop a little bit of margarine in a frying pan and just fry the sandwiches quickly in hot, shallow fat. If you've only got enough margarine just to fry one side, don't worry, you can always pop them under the grill and grill the other side. Now I've just done some to show you. Here, some delicious fried jam sandwiches. Now they will, as I say, make a lovely pudding following a meal. And there we are, a wonderful, quickly made and delicious homemade loaf for this special holiday. Now at our age, I think we're going to stay in quietly tonight and think thoughts of the service our brave men and women have given, the sacrifices they've made, and praying that those in the prisoner of war camps in the Far East will be returning very soon. Have a good VJ Day, everyone.